Here we go, guys. Last screen that we need to create. Obviously, it's our trapezoid screen because we've already made the rectangle square screen. We already made the parallelogram rhombus square. So the only remaining quadrilateral that we're looking at being able to calculate is that trapezoid screen. So let's dive right in, and we're going to go through the same basic process. We've got to put some input. We got to put an image on it. We got to put some buttons on it. We got to put some input spaces, and we're going to have some output spaces. Easy for you to say. So all of those pieces that we built into the previous screens, we're going to build into this screen as well. Some differences that are worth pointing out. We'll have more inputs in this one because we need more pieces of information in order to be able to calculate both perimeter and area of a trapezoid. So that's facts. Doesn't really make a difference in the work we got to do. We still got to do it. So let's get started on that. Wow, got some hiccups here. And we're going to start that with the screen button, right? So, the tool. So we're going to, in our toolbox, we're going to go to the screen, grab that screen, and then drag it in. That'll give us screen number 7 is what it's calling us, and that matches my counting. We've talked about 7 different screens as we've worked through this process. And this screen we're going to call trapezoid screen. Trapezoid screen seems like a good name. Again, I'm not going to give a background. Again, those are design choices you can work through, but I'm good for right now. I'm going to move myself gently forward. We're again going to put a button in the bottom left corner that will be our back button, and we'll name this trapezoid back button. And on the button, we're going to make it say back. We're also going to do that submit button that we've done in the previous 2. So we'll put that in the bottom right corner. So we've got some kind of screen balance. Try and line it up there. And instead of button 9, we'll call this trapezoid submit button. And on the button, we'll make it say submit. And with the not the text color, I'm sorry, the background color, I'm going to highlight that and just Control V, paste in that code that was the code for the previous 2 buttons color. So once I put that code in, you see it doesn't do anything immediately. I always just like to click on the box, and that makes it happen. I could probably click anywhere else in that screen. It would make it happen as well, but the box makes the most sense to me, and it does work. So I now have my back button made and my submit button set up the way they should be. So the next move is going to be the same move that I made in these previous 2 screens, which is to drag in an image. We'll change the name of that image to trapezoid dimension image. And we're going to choose the image. So click that choose option, upload a file. And the file we're looking for is trapezoid dimension. It's right there. We click open, and there it is. We can choose it. And obviously we'll need to resize it, make it big enough to do the thing we need it to do, which is fit and be legible within our screen. So again, we've got side 1, side 2, base 1, base 2, height, all of those things in these images. All right. So that's the basic. Now we need our text inputs. And again, so if you count the number of things the number of dimensions that we have on that trapezoid, we've got base 1, base 2, so that's 2 bases. We've got side 1, side 2, so that's 4, and then we've got height, so that's 5. We need a total of 5 input blocks in this value. If you think about how we set up those last input blocks, you should be able to realize that that's not going to work for the space that we have. We can't just do 5, one under the other. So we're going to do a side-by-side move here, and we're going to have to shrink our input blocks a little side to side. So again, all that's possible and completely achievable, just stuff we're going to have to do. So I'm going to grab a text input block and drag it in. And again, so the width here is all that I really want to change. The height, I'd like to stay about the same. And I can do all of this changing with this grab handle, but instead I'm just going to make this about half the size that it is total. Not quite exactly half, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than that, but 125 is the width that I'm going to make it go. And you can see when I do that, it makes it a little smaller and about right so that I could split the screen in half and do one on each side. I'm going to drag it down a little bit, and I'm going to name this one base 1, trapezoid base 1 input. Once I've done that, I'm actually going to duplicate, so I don't have to do all these changes over and over again. I'm just going to duplicate. You can see that puts a second one there, and I'll just try and move that to line up with that first one. I feel like that's a pretty good job of it, and I'll name this one trapezoid base 2 input. Again, I'll duplicate that. Now I'm going to move that one down, and underneath line up again. And again, try and give some space for labels, but then this will be trapezoid side 1 input. And I'll duplicate that. Now this time I'm going to try and line up with both boxes, and I seem to be able to do that. This one we'll call trapezoid side 2 input. And one more duplicate should give me all the input boxes I need. And try and line that up so that we've got similar spacing and that I'm lined up appropriately. That looks like we're in the vicinity. It might not be lined up perfectly. Let me see if I can get that a little bit better. Maybe better, maybe not. I can't tell. I'm old. So we'll name this one trapezoid height input. Now, again, the mouse over is a great tool. When I put my mouse on each of those, you can see the name of them, and that's good if you forgot what each of those things was as you were working through that process. I didn't, or maybe I didn't, but I do need labels on each of this. So I'm going to bring a label over onto the leftmost side of that first one, and I'm going to label this base 1. Oopsies, that's the text that goes in there is base 1. And the ID for that is going to be trapezoid base 1 label. I want a space, so it's base 1, base 1. Another text box on this one. And again, similar things we're going to say over and over again. Naming this label will be trapezoid base 2 label. Helps if you can spell. And then the label itself will say base 2. Just 5 more labels. Sorry, 3 more labels. There's our text. And again, in this case, the text will be side 1. And the ID for that is going to be trapezoid side 1 label. Another one. I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And this is trapezoid side 2 label. And the text will say side 2. One last label. Anybody got a guess what this one's going to be? Trapezoid height label. And the text will say height. Okay. We're in good shape. We've got all of our input boxes, and we've got labels for each of those input boxes so the user would know exactly what information is supposed to go into each of those places. The next move for us to make is our output areas, right? So we still need 2 of them, one for perimeter and one for area. So we'll start with a text area. We'll drag it in, and then I will resize it using my old man eyes to do that ever so carefully. Still rectangular, but also able to fit in the space I got. So I need to make it a little smaller than it's showing up right now. And once I've got that, I'm going to name that trapezoid perimeter output. And I'll duplicate that so I've got both boxes exact same size, and I'll try and space them equally. And this one we'll call trapezoid area output. Again, in terms of design, I've got all the elements that I'm looking to have on all the screens that I'm looking to have. I could scroll through each of those screens to see all of them and make sure that I've got my components named and all that sort of stuff. But I'm pretty positive that as long as we've gone through that process together, you've got things the way they should be set up. The next thing we'll start looking at is the actual code that's going to make all of these different features function within our application, and that's pretty important. But nice job to this point.